my name is Michael Trout, and I'm making this video to talk about our services that we provide entrepreneurs. Now, we provide something that I call the Open Incubator Framework, and it's Foundup. Now, the Open Incubator Framework is a system or process of doing startups and launching ideas and becoming successful startups. As you probably heard me keep saying, 99% of all startup ideas fail, and they do. The simple fact is there's over 100 million ideas, and ultimately every year only about 2,000 to 3,000 make it and are successful. So if you look at that math, it's less than 99%. So I've actually rounded up to 99, but even if we put it to 90%, if it makes you feel better, still the failure rate is atrocious. And why would you involve yourself in a system and doing a process if you know you're probably going to fail? And you're gonna, and money from friends and family and everything else is not going to go anywhere. There's a lot of hype going on with startups. Now, the Foundup is a pre-startup, and I'm going to keep drilling it into you. You have to understand the difference between a Foundup and a startup. There's no definition for a startup, so I created one. So Foundup Corp defines a startup very succinctly as a legal entity. Okay, this is a startup with doing a highly risky business venture that involves services and solutions that either has a niche customer base supporting it financially, right? So you've got customers supporting you, or seed investors or contributors, all right, or mainly seed investors to get you to your support level of niche customers, right? Or a combination of the two. You may have some customers, you may have some investors, launch. That's a startup. Now, you're not going to read that definition. The only company that has that definition, I came up with that definition because I realized that, before I could even define a Foundup, I need to first define a startup. So once you understand that, and I would challenge anyone to argue that isn't a startup. That is a startup. Anything other than that is basically a Foundup. So you probably have a Foundup and you didn't even know it. Now, the problem is you're trying to do a Foundup like a startup. And they're two different things. I mean, for example, a startup, you need a business plan. With a startup, you need investors. And with a startup, you need a very, localized core team. See, a startup is an institution vehicle. An institution means just everything as an institution. You have a structure, you have basically a form of leadership and and direction and milestones and everything else that you're going to achieve. Now, a Foundup is a collaborative vehicle, and one is you don't have the institutional structure. You only have advisors and team members as part of a Foundup, and I'll explain that. I'll explain why. Two is pretty much everyone involved in your Foundup is at this early stage, or there are volunteers. Okay, you're validating whether this is an idea worth doing. So just like every startup started with volunteers, unless you're wealthy, unless you have a bucket of money, right, you can't launch your idea as a startup. If you have money, you can skip the Foundup stage and go right into the startup phase. Great, this isn't for you. If you've got 100,000, 200,000 in cash, then Foundups is not a process for you. If you don't have 100,000 or 200,000 to throw at this, then the Foundup system is for you, right? And ultimately, a Foundup is very focused, right? We zero in on basically three things. The first thing is the team. And what we're looking to do is identify a global team of folks that are interested and are impassioned by your idea, and we will help you do that. Okay, I'm highly connected on LinkedIn. I work. I have a database of over close to 100,000 developers globally. PCN Strategy, who I work with, has basically we do recruiting for federal contractors, so we have a very extensive database. So I have access to that, and not only that, my own personal network. The second thing that a Foundup is focused on is really the prototype. Now, if you're spending $500 to incorporate, that's $500 that you could spend towards your prototype. If you're spending, you know, $5,000 in legal fees, that's $5,000 that you could be spending to building your prototype. Your prototype is very important because ultimately your prototype leads to the third thing, which is very important to a Foundup, which is your customer, your niche customer. So every Foundup is going to have some sort of niche customer, it's going to have some sort of prototype, and it's going to have some sort of, you know, team. And you start with a team. You keep things very simple, advisors and team members. And I'm going to teach you and take you through a process of basically launching your Foundup. Our own way, okay? We use, and it's not going to cost you anything to launch. You know, you don't need a website to launch. You don't need to pay, exuberant fees or anything else. That comes later on, all right? The first thing you want to do is basically set up your social networks and to set up your Foundup as part of Foundups Corp on LinkedIn. So I'm going to do a series of talks, and I'm going to explain to you exactly the process. Now, keep in mind, if you've signed up to be a part, to basically have our services are very affordable. You're not going to find any firm, any consultant firm in the world that's going to do the kind of work we're going to provide you for as little as $500. Okay. Now, let me talk about this. By you signing up, and in the process of you signing up, within the year or 6 months or 8 months that you sign up with your Foundup, and I'm going to give you feedback, what I think and everything else, whether it's viable personally. I'm going to crowdsource it myself through my team of advisors and everything else to see what they think about it. Ultimately, you should launch within the year. We will help you build your team. We will help you get your prototype built, or if it has been built, provide you the quality assurance to assist you in improving it. And finally, we will basically crowdfund using our own proprietary method, raise $50,000 to $100,000. Now, I believe $50,000 to $100,000 is basically a validation. So you should be able to raise over $50,000 for your idea, for your prototype. And really, this is a launch fund. This fund helps basically cover expenses, everything from building your prototype to launching it. And most importantly, what you should understand is we're going to be using a variation of the Max Fund system. Now, I require an NDA only because I am sharing some IP with you that has been modified, that has raised over $1 billion for strategic initiatives in the U.S. The system that we use as part of Foundups Corp is a system that has been proven and that is successful. And you're going to get access to that system. So an NDA is required, okay? And I'll tell you, I don't mind sharing. The system comes from National Community Development Services when I used to work for them. I've modified their system to fit startups, but basically it's the same system. And ultimately, in this system, you're going to raise 80 to 90% from corporate prime partners, okay? So your corporate prime partners are going to be the ones that are going to get behind you. Now, I didn't know this was possible until I launched Help Japan Co. And in a very short time, I've identified over $50,000 in pledges and contributions for Help Japan Co. And I realized right then that, wow, the Max Fund system modified for startups works. So you will get access to a system that will and has been proven to raise you money. Now, you can try the crowdfunding. If you've tried the crowdfunding is not ready. Putting your stuff out there and just hoping that you're going to raise the money isn't going to help there. Even like me trying to raise money for Japan, we've only raised about $5,000 in contributions. So in reality, the fact is, the crowdfunding model right now isn't ready. But the system that we're going to use that deals with really positioning your Foundup as a strategic initiative and raising the money via a very tested, it's 30-year-old system that's been used by major organizations around the U.S. And it raises significant funds. So, call me if you have any questions, 202-360-4467, and I look forward to talking to you. Again, 202-360-4467. I'm in Japan, and that number rings here. Thank you very much.